Hello everyone, welcome back to RS Academy. And in this video, we will be seeing chapter 15, that is body fluid and circulation in NEET point of view. Okay, so come, let's get started. Okay, now let's imagine a city like Chennai, okay, where suddenly all transportation stops. No food delivery, no oxygen supply, no waste removal. Within just few hours, the entire city would begin to collapse, right? Exactly the same thing would happen inside our body if circulation stopped. So cells would not survive without oxygen. So every second, trillions of cells in our body require oxygen, nutrients, and communication through hormones. At the same time, harmful waste like carbon dioxide must be removed continuously. So to manage all of these, the body has developed one of the most advanced system called the circulatory system. So the two major fluids involved in the circulatory system is blood and lymph. So in this chapter, we are not just going to study about blood vessels and the heart. We are going to study how every single heartbeat keeps you alive every second. Okay. So as I have told you already that there are two biggest needs for cells, that are oxygen and nutrients, and at the same time cells continuously produces carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste along with the toxic metabolic byproducts. Now we have to understand the main problem. What is the problem here? Most cells are not directly exposed to the environment, so they are deeply buried inside the tissues. Therefore oxygen cannot directly diffuse into every cell from air. So similarly, nutrients absorbed from the intestine cannot directly reach every cell. So the body requires a transport system. That transport system is called as circulatory system. So the main transporting fluid in the circulatory system is called as blood, and there is another fluid that is called as supporting fluid, which is nothing but lymph. Okay. Now let us start with blood. Okay. So yeah, blood is not merely a liquid, actually, it is a highly specialized connective tissue, okay? So, which is designed for transport, communication, defense, maintenance. So, what the blood will be maintaining the internal stability and along with the repair system and regulatory system. And actually, we will be seeing all of these in the detailed manner in the upcoming topics, okay? So, why connective tissue? Because it connects to all the organs functionally. Okay? How it connects to all the organs functionally? By transporting substances between them. So, what are all the functions that are performed by the blood? They carry oxygen and carries nutrients and transport hormones and removes waste from every cells and maintains pH. Along with that, it maintains body temperature and fights the infection. Blood is simultaneously performing as a transport medium, defense system, a repair system, and a regulatory system. Okay, what our blood is composed of? Blood are composed of plasma and formed elements. So, what is plasma? Plasma is actually 55% of the blood volume, and it will be in the color of straw color, slightly yellow, and viscose. Viscose is nothing but it indicates that the plasma is thick and sticky. Okay? In plasma, actually the plasma acts as the flowing river inside our body. Okay? So it carries nutrients, hormones, waste, gases, and proteins. Without plasma, formed elements cannot circulate efficiently. So now what are formed elements? Formed elements are nothing but cells and cell fragments. Okay. Now water in plasma. Actually, the water content in plasma is about 90 to 92%. Okay. This is extremely important because water is ideal. Why water is ideal here? Because it dissolves the substances easily, it transports the heat, and it maintains fluidity, and it allows diffusion. Okay, most dissolved substances in the blood remain dissolved because of water. Okay, and what are the proteins that are present in the plasma? There are 6 to 8% of protein that is present in the plasma. These proteins are not random substances. Okay, each one has a specialized role. Let us look on to them one by one. Okay, now what is fibrinogen? Fibrinogen is a type of protein, so its main function is to clot the blood. Okay, imagine you cut your finger. If blood continues to flow endlessly, even a small injury will become fatal. So, the body needs an emergency repair mechanism. Okay, and so fibrinogen is one of the most important protein that is involved in this repairing mechanism. So, it remains inactive normally, but during the injury, it gets converted into fibrin. Okay, so from fibrinogen, it is converted to thrombin, and from thrombin fibrin. Okay, and this fibrin will form a thread like fibers, which will be creating a mesh around the wound. So, this traps RBCs, platelets, and damaged cells, forming a clot. So, this fibrinogen will act as the raw material for blood clotting. Okay, and now globulin. Okay, so what is the main function of globulin here? Body defense and immunity. So, the body continuously faces attack from what? Bacteria, virus, fungi, and some kind of toxins, etc. Right? So this globulin participate in immune defense. Some globulin functions as antibodies. So you can imagine this as the security officer inside the blood. Okay, yeah, which protects our body. And now let's move on to albumin. So what is the main function of albumin? It is to maintain the osmotic balance. So why it is required? Because inside blood vessels, fluid must remain within circulation. Okay, if too much water escapes into the tissue, swelling will occur. Now albumin will help in maintaining the colloidal osmotic pressure. So what is colloidal osmotic pressure? This pressure will pull water back into the blood vessel. Okay, so if albumin level decreases, automatically fluid leaks into the tissues, edema develops. So this is why severe protein deficiency causes swelling. And now, what are the other substances that are present in the plasma? They are glucose, amino acids, lipids, hormones, vitamins, and minerals. And there are some important ions that are present in the plasma. They are Na plus, calcium 2 plus, and magnesium ion, chlorine, and bicarbonate ion. So what are all these ions used for? These ions help in maintaining the pH, osmotic balance, nerve impulse transmission, along with the muscle contraction. Serum. So this is actually the most important term, one of the most important term in NEET. Now, what is serum? So, if fibrinogen and clotting proteins are removed from plasma, that remaining fluid is called as what? Serum. No fibrinogen and no clotting protein, the remaining liquid is called as serum. Okay. Now we will be seeing about the formed elements. This is also the most important topic of the lesson. And there are 45% of formed elements in the blood. What are all those? RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. Okay, each will perform its specialized function. Okay, now let me teach you about RBCs. So, what is the scientific name of RBCs? That is erythrocyte. Okay, so the RBCs are the most abundant cells in the body that we know, right? So their primary mission is to transport oxygen, and every tissue requires oxygen for cellular respiration, that you all know. So without oxygen, ATP production will be decreased and cells will die rapidly. So what is the count of the RBC in a healthy adult? So in a healthy adult, the RBC count is 5 to 5.5 million RBCs per mm cube. Now, why are RBCs red? Because RBCs contain hemoglobin in them. And we have already seen that RBC will be having hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is nothing but the respiratory pigment, and it is red in color, and along with that it has iron. Iron binds with oxygen reversibly in lungs. Hemoglobin along with oxygen binds, and in tissues hemoglobin releases the oxygen. So this reversible binding allows efficient transport. Why are RBCs biconcave? So this is the most important structural development that we have to know, because biconcave shape will provide large surface area, shorter diffusion distance, and flexibility. Why flexibility are mentioned here now? Capillaries are extremely narrow. RBCs must bend and squeeze through them. Okay, so the flexibility of the biconcave structure makes this possible. So that is why the RBCs are biconcave in structure. And why RBCs lack nucleus? The main reason that is, actually the mature mammalian RBCs will lose nucleus. Okay, so if nucleus has occupied space, less hemoglobin will get fitted inside the cell. So nucleus removal increases the oxygen carrying efficiency. However, absence of nucleus also means RBC cannot divide themselves and repair themselves. Their lifespans are very limited and they can live up to 120 days. RBCs will become fragile and damaged after 120 days, and it will be mainly destroyed in spleen. And that is why the spleen is called as a graveyard of RBC. Okay, what is the normal level of hemoglobin in a healthy individual? It is around 12 to 16 gram per 100 ml blood. Okay, so if hemoglobin gets decreased, oxygen carrying capacity will also get decreased, and this will causes anemia. And this anemia will have symptoms like fatigue, weakness, pale skin, and breathlessness. Let us see WBCs now. What is the scientific name of WBC? That is leukocyte. So, WBCs are unlike RBCs. They are colorless and nucleated and no hemoglobin. Their main function is to provide immunity and defense. Okay, there are majorly two types of WBCs. One is granulocyte and another one is agranulocyte. What are the granulocytes? Neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils. And what are the agranulocytes? Lymphocytes and monocytes. So let's see what is neutrophils. So neutrophils are the most abundant WBC and its main function is phagocytosis. What is phagocytosis? It is engulfing and digesting the microbes. Okay, so neutrophils move towards the infection site. They literally swallow the bacteria, and act as the they act as the first cellular defenders. Okay, what are monocytes? So monocytes are the largest WBCs. This is also phagocytic, and it removes pathogens, dead cells, and tissue debris. Actually, monocytes later transforms into macrophages. Okay, and these macrophages are inside the tissue and it acts as the powerful scavenger cells. Let's see what is eosinophiles. Eosinophiles is important in the allergic reactions and parasitic infections, because their number will be increased during the asthma, warm infections, or some kind of allergies. So with that, we can understand that we are diagnosed with any type of disease that we have mentioned here. And then comes the basophils. Actually, basophils is the least abundant WBC, and they release histamine, serotonin, and heparin. Now let us look on to what is histamine. Okay, so histamine actually causes vasodilation, redness, swelling, and inflammation, and it is responsible for the many allergic symptoms. Now, what is heparin? Heparin is nothing but it is natural anticoagulant, and it prevents unnecessary clot formation inside the vessels. Okay. Now let's see lymphocytes. There are two types of lymphocytes, that is B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte, that are specialized immune cells. So now let us see what is B cells. B cells are the antibodies. So these produce antibodies and neutralize the antigens. So what is T cells? T cells actually attack the infected cells, and it is very important in viral infection and cell mediated immunity. Now, what is the scientific name of the platelets? That is thrombocytes. Actually, platelets are cell fragments, okay? And these cell fragments are produced from the megakaryocytes in bone marrow. What is the function of platelets? That is blood clotting. And whenever vessel injury occurs, platelets rapidly accumulate at the site and they release clotting factor and initiate coagulation cascade. So, what is the importance of blood clotting? As I have already said, imagine a small injury without clotting, continuous blood loss will happen, and therefore, clotting is an essential survival mechanism. Okay, now let's see blood groups. Blood groups depends on antigen present on RBC surface. So, antigens are molecules recognized by the immune system, and if foreign antigen enters our body, immune system reaction occurs. So there are three blood group system, that is A, B, O blood group system. Now, two major antigens are helpful in the formation of blood groups. So depending on this, the presence and absence of blood groups are formed. So group A and group B, A, B, O. There are four blood groups, and in group A, RBC antigen is A, and plasma will be containing anti-B antibodies. And in group B, RBC will contain antigen B and plasma will contain anti-A antibodies. Okay? As there are no antibodies in the plasma, the group AB is called as universal recipient. And in group O, RBC contains no antigens and plasma contains both antibodies. So it acts as the universal donor. So what is the universal recipient and what is the universal donor? AB acts as the universal recipient and O acts as the universal donor. This you have to keep in your mind. Now, why wrong transfusion is fatal? Because suppose incompatible blood enters the circulation, okay? Antibodies will try to attack or starts to attack the donor RBCs. So this causes agglutination, hemolysis, vessel blockage, and kidney damage. So, therefore, blood matching is very mandatory. And RH factor. RH is nothing but it is another antigen, and that is RH antigen. If it is present, then it is RH positive, and it is absent, then it becomes RH negative. Now, let's come to the very important topic of this lesson, erythroblastosis fetalis. So, mother is RH negative and baby is RH positive. And in first pregnancy, there will be no problem. It is usually safe because maternal and fetal blood will rarely mix. And during the delivery, small amount of fetal blood will enter the mother. Now, mother produces anti-RH bodies. So, in the second pregnancy, so during the second pregnancy, if it is RH positive pregnancy, the maternal antibodies cross placenta and destroy fetal RBCs. And this will have effects like anemia, jaundice, and even fetal death. So to prevent it, anti-RH antibodies are injected after the first delivery itself. Now let us see the detailed mechanism of blood clotting. Okay. So first, injury damages tissues and platelets, right? Platelets release clotting factors. What are all those clotting factors? The inactive prothrombin converts into thrombin, and then thrombin will be converted into fibrinogen, and fibrinogen will be converted to fibrin. And this fibrin will form a thread mesh on the wound, and which will be sealing the RBCs and platelets without moving out. So, fibrin threads forms clot network, and calcium ions are essential during this cascading process. Okay, now let us see what is lymph. So, when the blood flows through the capillaries, some plasma leaks into the tissues. Okay, and this becomes the tissue fluid. And this lymphatic system collects this fluid, and and inside lymphatic vessel it is called as lymph. Okay, so it is nothing but the tissue fluid present inside the lymphatic vessel is called as lymph. So what are all the functions of lymph? Fluid return. So what is fluid return? Returns leak fluid back to the blood. And fat absorption. Fat absorption is nothing but lactate absorb fats from the intestine. And immunity contains lymphocytes. Okay, students, with this, I'll be completing the part 1 video of body fluids and circulation. I hope you all like my explanation. And if there is any suggestions or improvements required, please let me know in the comments. I will definitely work on them. Thank you. Bye. Take care.